Welcome back to the Music Industry Podcast. I'm Alex from Burstimo, and this is
Maddy,
also from Burstimo. And this is the Music Industry Podcast, where we give you access to people and information, opinions that wouldn't ordinarily be accessible from people or independent artists outside of the industry. So if you're looking to grow, progress in the music industry, then this is the podcast for you. So we talk about things like Spotify, the news, TikTok, a lot of TikTok.
That.
So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the episode. So we are finishing off a pretty hectic week, if not 2 weeks in the music industry for us. It's been pretty hectic.
It's good hectic.
Good hectic. Yeah. No crisis this week.
No putting out fires, but yeah, it's been a good one. We have one of our artists go to #1 in the country charts, which was super exciting. Everyone on the team was absolutely buzzing their tits off.
Yeah.
So that was a super exciting one.
We've never done any country artists, really.
No, you're a big country fan.
I am a big country fan. I don't know why the lyrics are terrible in country.
But you're just singing in the car to your country music.
It's just like me holding my beer, driving around the truck, and I'm just like singing along to those country songs. I love it. So
I bet you were excited when we got her
country
as a
folk,
client.
I've got a big soft spot for.
Yeah, same to be honest, same.
That's why we started the company with all those indie artists and the rock artists. You kind of go with what you like, don't you?
Yeah, like I was such an indie rock, indie pop nerd, wasn't I? I'd sit listening and finding new artists all the time.
Do you think it helps if you're into the music genre to be able to work with an artist and
100%.
manage the artist?
100%.
Yeah.
Because I think you just have that like drive. You have this thing where you've heard the song, you're like, this is going to be big because you love it so much. And you can picture all these places it's going to be.
I can love a hip hop song a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't listen to a lot of hip hop, you know? So I can promote.
I think you can get more behind a song if it's your style. That's why like it works as a company that we have people that just love all different styles of music. We've got Bryony that loves hip hop, and then Sinead that likes more R&B, and then Charles likes a bit of pop. Like it works like that because everyone likes a different style. So I think it is easier if you're a big fan of it. However, if it's a good quality song, you can always get behind it, and that's the most important thing.
I think the big tough point is going to be knowing who to go to. So I don't think I really, outside of Complex, would know who to go to for hip hop and try and promote a hip hop artist. I think you've got to know the culture of the audience. You've got to know how they talk, what they're into, what the people do, where they're located, to be able to really make things happen. So if you've been managing Irish folk artists all your life and suddenly have a go at a hip hop artist, I think you are going to struggle without that
I completely agree. But you're seeing that with management companies because if you look at their roster, it's most of the time a very similar genre. And this is, you see a lot of people get angry about this. They're like, oh my God, why are you not signing more Afrobeats? Why are you not signing more R&B? But if that management company specializes in that genre, it's for a reason. They understand the community. And that's the reason that those artists have broken, because they can take someone and go, I know where that's going to go. I know what your audience want to see, and they can just replicate it.
I completely agree. You mentioned also Bryony, who is unfortunately our first ever employee. It's her final 3 weeks. She leaves at the end of this month. So
she's been with us for 4 years.
4 years. And she took a big gamble coming to a couple of plebs who had an idea of starting a music marketing agency.
But we gave her pizza.
We did.
That's probably how we got it.
It was the pizza that got it. And
we probably spent all the money in the bank account to get that pizza.
We actually did at that time. It did work. Yeah, we were in that little booth, that little Regis office. And then, she's off traveling to all sorts. And then you decided to take inspiration from her and wanted to move the entire company to Bali.
How on brand is that? I was like, ooh, we could do this, but in Bali.
It did actually get me thinking, I'm like, why are we in the UK sometimes? I'm like, it's great structurally and everything that's going on. But
for those that don't know, I think everyone thinks we're based in London. We're not a London company. We have an office in London, but we're not based here.
Yeah.
We're filming this podcast in London, and we're in London a lot for meetings and things, but we're not a London company. And why is that, Alex?
Because we like Cambridge
Yeah.
as a place. Yeah, the food's great.
We are such Cambridge losers.
Well, it was a trap. I was like, yeah.
No, we are literally Cambridge through and through. Mm-hmm. We're based there. All our team's based there. And, wouldn't change it for the world.
No, I wouldn't change it for the world. Apart from Bali. And it does actually make me think, why are more record labels not based offshore?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know Andrew Tate gets a lot of hate, but I got that idea from him when he was like, why are you based in the UK? When I go, he was in Romania, I think, and he was like, I pay 1% tax. And I started Googling all the taxes of different places like Switzerland and Hungary. Did you know Portugal have like a 10-year golden visa, it's called, where you can go tax-free for 10 years if you move. Yeah, so you don't pay any tax. So
Burstimo is now based in Portugal.
Yeah. So I was like, maybe record labels like, why are you based in London and Los Angeles when essentially you can work from anywhere now with Skype, Zoom calls, email each other tracks.
Same as artists though. Like, don't you think there's a definitely
artists as well?
A thing where artists are pushing themselves to go to places like London and LA, and it's like, I understand it's a good networking opportunity, but if you create the most dedicated audience online, people will come to you. People will be knocking on your door. People will be in your DMs. And you're just sat back, sitting in a random village in Portugal, like, people want to fly me out to LA.
Do you know that an artist is not based in that country? You know, their content is in their apartment a lot of the time when they're getting started, the recording studio when they're getting started. So yeah, I think the startup costs and everything could be a lot, and could be a lot cheaper. And if anyone wants to do more research on that, I got all my information on that. I did a lot of research since you said the Bali thing. There's a YouTube channel called Nomad Capitalist, where he tells you like where to work from and where you can work from and the best bits of different countries. And a lot of the time he recommends like Mexico and stuff like that, which I think is a bit far away from home for us. But if you're in the USA, I think that's a really interesting proposition as well. So what was the topic again for today? We picked a topic.
We did. We want to discuss things that artists need to be doing pre-release, whether that's your debut, whether that's you've released a few tracks and you're about to drop another one. Because I think the pre-release marketing and work isn't focused on enough. If you look at someone dropping a track, yes, you can do a lot post-release. But everything you're doing beforehand is setting the foundations. And we had the TikTok artist community manager on our podcast last week or so. And a great example that she used was Charlie Puth. He plugged Light Switch for 16 months before it dropped. And I remember seeing that content. And as a marketer, I was like, that's so orchestrated. That's got to be a label. That's got to be a marketing manager, a social media manager, someone that's like created this grand plan. And she stated it wasn't, and it was all him. But that's 16 months of plugging.
How often do you hear that now?
Oh yeah, I'm
you
still
think it's
not
the label
sold.
all powerful and they're coming up with all these ideas, and actually it was the artist doing it.
Yeah, but I'm also still not sold that it was like natural. If anyone did it, it would have been him. He completely planned that, but it still didn't get boring. And 16 months of plugging that song, it immediately charted on release day. He could have not touched that song again post-release, and it still would have charted and still would have done well because all of the work done pre-release.
So he just built up so much demand to listen to that song. People had
Did you see the
listen
content?
to it. No.
Genius. So basically what he did is he pretended, I'm so sure, that the sound of his light switch sounded pretty cool. And he was like, oh, I'm going to sample that. I'm going to like take that and see what I can do with it. And every single new TikTok was adding a new sound and just building it. So you saw the creation of the track, you saw the inspiration for the track, you saw his passion as he was coming up with this new sound. He made people vote what to add in next. So he'd be like, oh, do you think I should add a bass line? What do you think of this?
So if he gets 10,000 votes, there's 10,000 people who think that they now have a input on this song that now need just there's 10,000 guaranteed streams on release day.
Yeah, and you know full well that they're going to listen on release day and be like, I was a part of that. I made him choose that, and it was probably already recorded. Let's be honest. So 16 months of doing that, and when it dropped, everyone just needed to hear it because you've seen the creation of it, you felt involved. It's a good song. I wouldn't say it's any better than his other songs. I wouldn't say it's any worse. But because of the involvement and the whole community seeing the growth of it, just flew into the charts.
So the momentum of that just pretty much catapulted it into the charts.
I think a topic that we find ourselves talking about a lot off camera, about our business, about artists, about kind of what people pay attention to is the word narrative. And we're kind of obsessed with this like storytelling, because every time I get obsessed with whether it's a creator, whether it's an artist, whether it's a business, a product, I'm completely sold because of the story they've told me. And that's a perfect example of it. Like Charlie Puth told this story, and whether it's true or not doesn't matter, because it was still engaging and it was so interesting and you felt a part of it and you went along that journey with him. And the narrative is the thing that hooks a full fan base and makes a cult-like fan base.
And it just adds that extra layer, because people ask, can you break a song or an artist without that narrative? And the answer is yes. If the song is good enough, then it will
look at Dua Lipa,
and it will launch.
Look at the charts.
Exactly.
Loads of them don't have any narratives.
However, I think the narrative adds that longevity to an artist where you want to keep following their story. I'm thinking like Adele, for example, like her album's like 21, 24, and 30,
all the years of her life, Yeah. And it's also, the story behind the tracks. It's always linked to heartbreak. And although maybe it wasn't a PR manager putting those stories out into the news and stuff leaked, you still know the story behind the songs. You know the heartbreak. You know these relationships that have fallen. So you're listening to those songs in a completely different way than if a pop song was just played on the radio that had quite a catchy beat. And obviously you can still chart and do very well and make a lot of money from just having great material. But I don't think any artist just wants to do that. They want people to understand their music. And you write songs for a reason. You have a story behind it. So why would you not tell it?
Exactly. And it sort of works if it's reverse engineered as well, in a sense where it gives you something which you can talk about in interviews and with other people and on your EPK. And then we get so many artists coming to us saying, I don't know what to write about for me and what the song's about. And then you've suddenly got this whole story which just gives you that place to start off from in your interview. So you want your radio interview and you're worried about what you're going to talk about. You've got that basis of your story, which gives you a starting point in order to branch off and talk about anything you want from there.
I think a lot of people that might be listening right now might be like, I have no idea what my narrative is, what my message is. But it doesn't have to be like crazy interesting. It doesn't have to be that you had this massive breakup from a marriage and then you wrote all this material about it. It's just kind of what's happening in your life. And that's it. Like, I always think our message is like, we started a business because we couldn't see anyone else doing what we were doing. So we made it and we just did it. And we didn't try to like find people to help us along the way. We just did it. And it's not very exciting. That's just the reality of it. And it's the exact same for artists. You find why you did it, why you wrote music, what's inspiring you. And that's most probably your overall narrative, your message that you want to put across.
I'd be very interested to see how this James Blunt song does. Where I sent you that on TikTok yesterday, I think, and he's got a strong narrative there.
I thought it was going to be funny as well, because it's James Blunt.
Sorry about that. I probably said that at 1 a.m.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is going to be funny.
And then
watch
you were
it.
crying.
It's so emotional.
Yeah, it is,
but
isn't
again,
it?
it's good because his overall brand is humour. Him dropping that, it's just so real, and the lyrics are a lot more hard-hitting than if kind of Adele did it, because you're used to that sort of thing.
So if you're listening on the day that this goes out, then I do recommend following that as well if you want an example of how to do a narrative and implement it for an individual song and not just you as an artist.
Should we talk about the very simple things when it comes to like releasing a track? Because we think it's simple. Probably isn't that simple. Getting your track actually out there, you don't just wake up on release day and press go. It has to be put with a distributor, which if you're independent, there are tons out there. There's CD Baby, DistroKid, The Orchard, there are tons out there. Do your research on who you want to use. Amuse as well. And they all have different deals as to whether they take a percentage, whether you have to pay to upload it, where they upload it to. I think the most important thing now, which probably has never been mentioned in our other videos covering this topic, is you have to ensure your distributor gets it on TikTok.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you do not do that, you are missing out on something massive. And I'm also seeing artists get their track on TikTok, but it's a random 30 seconds from the beginning of the song. So the point that may have done well on TikTok, that is the chorus, which is 30 seconds onwards, isn't there. So get it on TikTok, but the right section. That's a key thing. So yeah, get it with your distributor and make sure you're doing that like a month before.
And don't cheap out on your distributor as well, because as you know from this podcast, we have had many interviews with curators from the DSPs, the digital streaming platforms, from almost every single one of them, aside from Spotify. However, I know.
Why are they not doing that?
They're just boring.
Yeah.
So they told us that there's different distributors, that some of them will pitch your music to the official Spotify playlists and the official playlists of like Apple Music, Deezer, and actually do the pitch and send it. There are other distributors that don't actually send your track to the DSPs. They just upload it. So don't cheap out. Make sure you go for a reputable DSP and don't just go for anyone.
So you've got it with your distributor a month prior. You've got the release date set. From here, the first thing you're going to do is Spotify for Artists.
Yes, yeah.
Like, hands down, best thing you can do pre-release, because when this first was announced, I think we were a bit skeptical. We were like, spectacle?
Speculative.
Skeptical. There we go.
Speculative.
Too many words beginning with S. We were skeptical. I thought it was like Spotify saying, we can't really be asked to listen to music, so I'm going to make this little submission form so all of you shut up and stop spamming our emails. Nope. They actually do listen, because we submit all of our artists through it, and a very large percentage are getting accepted, even on a debut release, because if the song's good and the pitch is written well, you end up getting playlisted because you use those keywords. And I think people often forget that Spotify are a business, so they need to ensure that everyone that's on that playlist is bringing listeners in. So when you write that pitch, you have to be thinking that. You have to be thinking, how can I persuade Spotify that I'm going to bring new listeners in?
And it's so important as well, because if you get on a big Spotify official playlist, and by the way, if it's your first official playlist, don't expect something like Rap Caviar. Can you think of a single artist we've worked with where they've actually started on a big playlist, like their debut playlist?
It's always like hot new bands, new pop UK.
Has, isn't it? Yeah. And then your next release tends to be the one where you get all of that traction.
Yeah.
So
as long as it performed well on the playlist.
Yes. Yeah.
I have seen some where they've been put on smaller playlists and it didn't bring in the streams, and after that they haven't seen much support from Spotify. So that's why the quality of the music is always key. Always.
Exactly. But there are so many other things you need to be doing in order to get that first playlist. And one is, when you fill out your pitch for Spotify for Artists, what we say now, we say 4 weeks. I don't think it's quite
it
as
doesn't
early
need to be 4
as
weeks
4
now,
weeks
but I would
now.
say get it with your distributor in 4 weeks, because sometimes it can be a little bit slow.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can do it a week before, but it has to be definitely a week before, because that's when they curate New Music Friday, a week prior, so you never know if you're going to get on that.
I'm not sure if this is still the case, but about 6 months ago it was the case that if you haven't released a song ever on Spotify, you don't get Spotify riders. Is that still the case?
So you can get access to it.
Yeah.
You have to directly go to your distributor and push them.
Yeah.
And these distributors are getting tens of thousands of artists spamming them constantly about why their track's not live and all these things. So their response rate, it's not great. So if it is your debut release, I'd just put it on literally months before, so you can ensure you are on Spotify for Artists. They give you access and you can submit via the form. Yeah.
And also you could release a track that you don't think is the favourable track and then go for your bigger one on the second track would almost guarantee you're going to get Spotify for Artists as well. Yeah,
that's a good point to make, because I think a debut release, the expectations for some reason are so high. But with things like YouTube, if you were to upload your first YouTube video, you're not sat there thinking, this is going to go viral. But artists seem to have this expectation of like a debut release, it's a great track, it's going to get millions of streams overnight. Most of the time, the debut release just kind of plods along.
Yeah, it does.
It's just used as that initial foundation to just grow from there. But you still want it to be high quality, because if you release the next track, it does do very well. You don't want people to go listen to your debut and they're like, this is horrendous. So still make sure that quality's high, but you're kind of using it as a bit of a tester one.
And then, of course, filling in the form. A lot of people want to tick every box that they possibly can to be able to get every possible playlist they can. What that does is just it broadens you too much to an extent where if it's a country artist or if it's a hip-hop artist, then if you're kind of a bit of hip-hop, a bit of pop, they don't really know what playlist to put you on. So I do suggest really niching down and saying who you are as an artist and what your specific genre is. Just pick one, and then at least the curator knows exactly who you are. The rest of the form is pretty simple, just ticking a few boxes. Then you've got that little box at the bottom. We get a lot of questions on what to put in that box, and we found that it is a lot about, one, your social media presence. You've got I wish it wasn't the case. I'm going to say this a lot in this segment. I think that I wish it wasn't the case, but your general content on Instagram has to have a good, consistent look and feel for the genre. So
I agree.
So I have noticed that if you go onto a Spotify official playlist, you will very rarely have, for example, bad photography or something like that on your Instagram account.
Same as cover, like their album artwork always looks good when you're on an editorial.
Exactly. Yes, artwork is a big one as well, which I don't think that's going to be a point in itself, but I'm pleased you made that point, because you do have to have great artwork, because they'll think about the aesthetic in general of their playlist. And also I feel like the reels being separate from the feed now has really been a big favor for artists, because you do want to keep it raw and authentic. We always say that. However, raw and authentic isn't always amazingly well edited pictures. So I do think at this point now, you have to think of your profile and your feed as having a certain aesthetic. Your reels can be more raw and your stories can be more raw, but always have that nice aesthetic for getting on Spotify official playlist. That is simply a pattern that I've noticed with our artist. It is important. So when we're celebrating their first Spotify official playlist, we find out it's actually the artist who has a really nice aesthetic.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that that little pitch section, obviously you can't fit much in there, but what you got to think about is those keywords. So the playlists that are on Spotify, of course, they're separated into genre, but they're also separated into countries, into feelings, into sexuality, into religion. So if you can fit into any of these boxes, just water, babe. Thanks, babe. Yeah. If you can fit into these boxes, then it's not going to sound like you're literally peeing in front of the mic. Thank you very much. Yeah, if you can fit into those boxes, include it. So if you are a LGBT artist, put that into your submission. If you are Christian, there's New Music Friday Christian. There are so many different avenues that you could go down. Don't lie, but use those keywords that are fitting to you, and explain the track just a little bit. Don't tell them that your cat fell down the stairs, landed on the piano, and you found this new melody. Like, they don't give a shit. They really do not give a shit. They get so many submissions. Just keep it short, explain what it's about, add a bit of credibility, and use those keywords, and you're good to go. And
adding that bit of credibility, I was going to say, I'll say it again, that I wish it wasn't like this, but press helps. And
it really does.
It does, because it gives you something to put in that form. It gives you some credibility. We see a direct
correlation between a premiere on a big site and then an editorial.
And it stresses me out, because it shouldn't be the case, because Spotify specifically, curators shouldn't really care about the opinions of blogs, because they are 1,000 times, if not 100,000 times bigger than these blogs. So they shouldn't really care. They should have their own opinion. However, if you've got some press behind you and some presence, it is a good starting point for an artist just to get that behind you. Do not expect the streams to come from press. The press does not get a high traffic rate anymore. People don't read magazines, they don't read blogs. We will always say that. We will never lie and say you're going to get thousands of streams from this press campaign. However, that's the positives of it. It's that online presence and being able to give you something to put in your EPK, something to put when you are applying to play live shows, and also for that Spotify for Artists submission. I do think it helps, especially as they're asking for your marketing campaign and what you're going to be doing. Having that premiere helps.
And that's also a good point, that you can put in the submission bit what your plan is to bring in listeners, because if you tell them, I'm working with a marketing agency that are doing influencer marketing and this is already happening behind the scenes and we're getting TikTok views, they know that once it drops, you're going to be bringing people to Spotify. And that's kind of all they care about, because that's how the business works. So include all those things and you're good to go. And hopefully you'll wake up on release day and get an editorial. If you don't cry about it. Get over it. There are plenty of times that we've seen artists get editorials like 8 weeks post-release. And that's either down to the audience loving it and streaming it, or them getting added to loads of playlists, or their marketing campaign's really successful and they are bringing in new listeners. So Spotify reward them. I'm
so pleased you've just reminded me of something I wanted to say, which was we put on our story quite often, if an artist gets an editorial, we put a quiz of how many streams they got in that week or that month.
Savage.
Yeah, of that month. So we don't name the artist, but we name the playlist and how many streams they got from that playlist, because obviously we're on their Spotify for Artists, so we can see. So we've got a huge spreadsheet of how many streams each playlist got for that artist. And it was fascinating how often you guys got it wrong and expected more streams from that playlist than the artist actually got, which means you're putting more pressure on yourselves and more importance and value on that Spotify playlist than is actually warranted for you in your career. It doesn't blow you up that much. It's just merely a starting point. As you said, if you don't get Spotify official playlist, it's not the end of the world. There are so many other things you can be doing in order to be getting your streams and getting your audience. So if you're not following us on Instagram, it's quite a lot of fun. One of my favorite posts is doing those ones because I like seeing everyone get it wrong. And also it helps us because when we're talking to artists as well, then if you've watched our content, then at least you know what expectations to be getting. And I think that could be our third point for the podcast is expectations of what do you prepare yourself for before you release music in terms of streams, music video views, etc.
What I think is really hard about being an artist is every single release you expect more streams on it. However, if you look at some of the biggest artists in the world, their streaming numbers are just like this. So one of my favorite artists at the moment, Fletcher, who, if you do not know her, go search her on TikTok. Her content is genius. I don't know if she has a marketing team or she's doing it individually. I think it's all individual. It seems very clever.
It's always individual.
It's also super personal to her. She is smashing it. And one of her tracks blew up because of the narrative behind it and because she took that to TikTok, and it's done very well. She just performed on Jimmy Fallon. But the other tracks that she released that are part of that album haven't performed as well. However, you always think, okay, I released one song, blew up. Next one, obviously going to do better. But it's not the reality of it. Look at YouTubers. They post one video that gets 3 million views. The next one might only get 500,000 views. It's all down to the quality of that one song. But the overall aim should be to always be increasing that audience. Not necessarily a single track getting more streams, but increasing that audience and increasing the dedication. Because if you can continue to release music, and of course there's going to be differences, but if all of them have like a base layer of streams or listeners, or your ticket sales are always the same and it doesn't drop below that, that's when you smashed it, and that's when you know that you've got a core fan base. But if you're seeing one track get 2,000 streams and another one get 1 million, there's an issue there, or potentially it's not legitimate. But I think you should always set yourself that bottom amount. You don't want to be doing worse than that, because either it means the song wasn't good or you don't actually have a dedicated audience. But past that, it should always be just promoting that single, really pushing it, see what you can do, see how you can push the boundaries and be creative and get your audience involved, then move on to the next one.
And I'd just like to add to that if my advice for an artist in that position, sometimes artists get very worried about what their fans are going to think if they don't get those streams. But in reality, it's only the artist, the label, and me and you even really care about the streams. They don't look. So you know, they don't look. So they go onto their release radar and they press play and they like the song. They now are a bigger fan of you, and then that's it. It doesn't matter any further how well that track did, and I think it's always very important to remember that. And for an artist who isn't as big, I think artists also worry about the time frame in which what a successful track is. So now, when we are doing a campaign for an artist, actually we're thinking about what you can do in these 2 months in order to get to the track to be to here in a year. You can't make an emerging artist can't make a track just go viral and get 10 million streams on their first release in 2 months. Obviously it happens, but we're talking about the majority of successful artists. What happens is that the Discover Weekly kicks in and those algorithm playlists kick in. And we find that the growth is exponential for that artist. But within that 2-month period, we get sometimes as low as 20 streams from the Discover Weeklies. But weirdly, that's a good sign for us, because that means that the track has been picked up by those Discover Weekly playlists. And now it is going to assess the strength of the track, the genre of the track, and then push it out over the course of years. And sometimes we've had artists where we've looked back and I'm like, I wonder what they're doing. And then they're on 1 million streams. I'm like, oh,
we are good at our job.
It actually blew up a lot bigger than where we left it 8 months ago. So I think that's very, very important for artists to understand in terms of expectations. Don't stress if you're still stuck on less than 1,000 streams. Yeah.
And I also think the most important thing that you were kind of touching on is it's long-term sustainable growth. And the industry struggles with this. Artists, you've made this piece of art, you expect millions to listen immediately. The label, they want millions of streams to make their money back. Managers, they want to take their cut, so everyone wants things to happen immediately. But you see one-hit wonders and they're gone, like Gangnam Style, for example. And you see some people that go viral on TikTok with one video and nothing happens from there. This long-term sustainable growth is where you're going to see this cult-like fan base. And you see this on every platform, especially Spotify, but also TikTok, where you'll see artists post 4 videos, might get maximum 500 views, and they're like, oh, this platform's so shit. It's not pushing me out. I should be going viral. But then you look at an artist that's doing the exact same strategy, but has been doing it fully for 6 months. They might be on 300,000 followers because they just stuck with it. And if you have watched our previous videos or you follow us on Instagram, you would have seen a clip where we said the average time it takes an artist to break, the average amount of releases, is 32 songs.
Yeah.
And people were mind blown by this because they've released 4 and they're already frustrated. 32 songs is 3 albums?
Yeah.
Do you even have 3 albums released? Do you even have 3 albums recorded? Probably not. So that constant drive to just keep releasing, keep putting out, keep engaging with that audience is what's going to see the results, and you're going to get rewarded for that hard work. And it also puts you in another tier entirely to the majority of the industry, because most musicians will release 4 songs and give up. Most musicians will upload a couple of TikToks and give up. If you're not that, if you're not the majority of artists, you will break.
Yeah. And also, I want to touch on expectations of Instagram as well. We get a lot of artists thinking that they're almost like 1 stream equals 1 follower. Yeah. You get 1 million streams and you're expecting 1 million followers on Instagram. It doesn't actually work like that. It's closer to like 1 million streams equals 1,000 followers on Instagram. If that. Yeah. So your content on Instagram and your music is very, very separate until later in your career. And that's when the Instagram really starts to take off, when people want to know more about you. So you'll get people going from your Instagram to your music and from your music to your Instagram, but it doesn't exactly work in harmony until later in your career.
I think Instagram followers, TikTok followers, and Spotify streams, all those numbers should be ignored.
Yeah.
We've worked with artists that have come to us with millions and millions of streams, can't sell out a venue with like 300 capacity. And then you get down to it, and maybe the streams weren't legitimate, or maybe they got them and then didn't release music from that point onwards, or created no content to engage with that audience. You're seeing TikTokers that, I mean, we released a few TikToks where we got well over 100,000 views on it when we had 500 followers. Ignore your followers. It doesn't matter. Ignore your streaming numbers. It doesn't matter.
That's what's so beautiful about TikTok as well.
It's just amazing. Like, if you can engage a ton of people, of course the followers are going to come, but who cares? Like, you could have 10 followers and all this stuff happens. It's all down to who's engaging with you. Are you getting DMs? Are you getting comments? Are you getting people talking about your music, sharing on their story? Because that's when you know you've made it. It's as simple as that.
I've actually done a video on the journey to an artist breaking, and that was just a talking to camera video. So if you want to know more about what to expect,
the one with the diagrams. Yeah, that's a great video.
Very overly complicated diagram, but it was necessarily complicated, and it's well worth watching. I think that video, for understanding how all of your social medias will connect together. The fourth point I wanted to talk about was hiring. Do you hire people, marketing people at this stage of your career? Do you do it yourself? What's your opinion on that?
So obviously the topic is like pre-release stuff. And I think if we're talking debut release, no. Yeah. You don't need it, because that's like you haven't even come up with a business name and idea yet, but already going to a mentor and being like, help me. You have to find your feet initially, work out what you enjoy, what you like, who your target audience is, because no one can come in and tell you that. They can't tell you who wants to listen to your music. They can't tell you how to brand yourself, because you haven't really worked that out yet. Once you get to that point, that's when I think finding people is really useful. So a PR team, if you want to get some press for, like we said, it helps with those editorials. Just get that coverage, be able to put it in your EPK, put it in your Spotify pitch, put it absolutely everywhere for that little bit of credibility. And then once you've found your feet a little bit with social media, that's when you can look at a digital marketing team. But I think a lot of people jump to these things quite early on, purely out of fear of failing. But the likelihood of you failing with a team at the beginning is probably still quite high. So don't just chuck money in it and hope for the best. Find your feet a bit and work out where you want to take it. And then you can look at hiring people. Yeah.
And I think when we say, obviously, we're a marketing company, if you're going to try and get a label to come on board with the track or something like that, I think that's kind of all the same point, really. Especially as you need to give whoever you hire, whether that's the label, the marketing company, you need to give us something to work with in order for us to know what you're about and where we can improve. So I'll have to ask Sinead and Bryony on the stats, because I don't know, but I can't remember us taking on many pre-debut campaigns.
I don't think. No. I really can't.
And I know we get people reaching out to us saying, I'm about to launch. And I think for us, it's like, I don't think we can take it, because we need to know what you're about, where we can take this, what your skills are. Are you good at content? Is it just a strong track and there's nothing else? How many fans have you got right now? Where's the algorithm on Spotify placing you? What other team have you got around you, and how good are they? For example, you might say, I've got a really good graphic designer who's doing my album artwork, and then it's terrible. And then we take on the project and we're like, the music is so good and it's terrible at everything else, and you can't do anything with it. So thinking about it now, that kind of almost has answered the question for me in my eyes, which is you got to get a few releases under your belt to get some practice and get some experience before going on and taking people on.
Yeah, I completely agree. So we put a story up asking you guys to ask us questions. And if you don't follow us on Instagram, make sure to drop us a follow at Burstimo, and you can ask any question you wish.
Scary.
Yeah, it's super scary. I mean, we've probably got some creepy ones here. Mm-hmm. So let's start with... Ooh. I clicked it and it went missing. Marketing. As professionals of the industry, do you believe that Instagram is dying and TikTok is rising? Which kind of pulls into what we were saying earlier about how you said keep the profile a little bit cleaner, professional images. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, Instagram isn't dead, but it's got a different purpose. So in the past, you did use Instagram to build an audience. Now you use other platforms and your dedicated fans will be following you on Instagram. Reels are really helping to get artists discovered and growing that new audience. But besides that, mm-hmm. it's just sort of that net to catch your fans in. Mm-hmm. Besides that, I wouldn't have a heavy focus on it. Whereas TikTok, 100%.
Yep, 100% TikTok in terms of breaking the artist. In terms of Instagram, I agree with everything that you said. I like to not look at stats too often, look at what my friends are doing as well. And I think Instagram is still hot in terms of the time that people put into looking at what their friends are doing, look at what the artists that they love are doing, and they're still consuming Instagram content in a different kind of way to how they consume TikTok content. I think Reels is kind of coming into its own, but I wouldn't really think that an artist could necessarily get a new audience for that. So I think really now it's got a lot simpler now. Instagram for your existing audience and TikTok for your new audience.
Completely agree. And if you want to submit a question, follow us on Instagram for the next one. I think it's a good place to end it.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool.
See us out.
Yep. Thank you very much for watching or listening. If you're on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like. And if you're listening on Spotify or other podcast platforms, leave a review. And we will see you in the next one.